Okay, well, my name is Corliss Harris. I have been a medical device researcher in the form of a histologist for about 7.5 years. And I was applying to graduate school during those years. I wanted to move forward in the sciences. Wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I had gone to Earlham College from 1999 till 2003 and majored in biology. I was very, very much present in my church and in my community. I had a very active family in our church and in our community. Very active high school student, very active college student as far as extracurriculars go, and it was a Quaker school. I chose the school because it did not have fraternities and sororities specifically. And when I was in fourth grade, I decided that I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And so a lot of the things that I did from fourth grade, literally, till college were to lead me to go into medical school. And that included a few national leadership conferences, national tests. I was an Indiana Academic Honors Diploma, meaning that in high school I took advanced placement courses. I had a Howard Hughes scholarship for the pre-med portion of my undergrad, and was involved with the Eli Lilly program. A program with Eli Lilly for pre-med related to the Howard Hughes program, and then also to help rural, which are farm kids that were in our region. These kids were from farming communities. They were not completing high school before they were getting married and buying trailer homes and putting the homes on their parents' property. And so our job was to go and mentor them to try to get more of those kids, and it was an alarming rate of them. And these were Caucasian farming kids, so and it was an alarming rate of them that were unable to finish high school. So that was another one of the great things that I was involved in. So I was always giving back. I get to my job, and I had a prayer when I was in college. I was just really intimidated by the medical school process. However, many of the years of my childhood and middle school and high school, I learned how to be prepared for medical school, as far as being able to stay up with long numbers of hours, study for long numbers of hours, to endure a lot of stress over time. And I did not realize, being a black woman, that there are a lot of things, even if you have the monetary resources, that can be very stressful about the academic process. And even though it was 1999 to 2003, there were still a lot of ways that Caucasian people just don't know black people. And so the school was about 1,100 students. It was a private Quaker institution, and they use consensus to make decisions, meaning that you would make a decision as a community and you'd all come to a determination on decisions, as opposed to you being led kind of democratically, where you just vote and the best of the votes wins. In this case, you decide together the endpoints that you're going to use to take further to make further movement. So anyway, I get to this awesome job, definitely a very intimidating job. I was overqualified for the job, but I did not know that in the realm of the sciences, you have to, and I guess what I learned really well from my undergrad was you have to know the quality of your education. And so I started this job. They wanted us to be histology technicians, but we had bachelor's degrees. In that day and age, histology technicians only required a high school diploma and a year or two of not necessarily even classes. just to be able to validate whether or not you could identify slides properly and identify nuclear structures, cellular structures, a stain for them, the different kinds of stains and the characteristics of those stains, which compared to a bachelor's degree was not much. And so I fought to not get certified because I did not want to decrease the value of my degree. What I did not know, and what this video was about, and is about, is how Christian connections or the presence of Christianity in some of these cities can affect you as a scientist, as an individual, and your own walk. I was in a Bible Belt literally area where there were a high number of Republican white males. Had no idea. I mean, I knew there were churches like everywhere, but the most wannabe Orthodox church, possibly in the region, was across the street for all these years. I had no idea. I never went there. I just didn't look. I was from a CME background, which is Christian Methodist Episcopal, and I encountered men and a population of people that, the brainwashed nature of their leadership really affects how that whole region was run. And thankfully, for the years that I was there, I had males over me that protected me from all of that. So my job every day was just to go to work and to achieve, almost to the point of being an entrepreneur myself within that laboratory. And I did achieve quite a bit for my degree level. I ended up being able to chair a committee, and I achieved a lot. But I had fleas of Christian leaders around me that were what I call now, and what I understand from psychology, parasites. Psychopathic people, and a lot of these people end up being things like cult leaders or church leaders, and they go into careers in which they can control people because that's just a part of their personality. And they have narcissistic tendencies, which we know is ego related, and if you have an ego that is too inflated, then you are known as a narcissist. The man that I was under happened to have checks and balances that literally God had placed him under to kind of help balance him, but as I had to find out the hard way, when you have people that are stressed over such a long period of time, it will literally syrup your humanity. You will become the purest of what you are in their presence. That pressure will really show who you are. And this man was a psychopath. He was sadistic. He was very controlling. He was very abusive, in a very overt way. And he did not let things go that he considered his own. And so here I am, I think 2010, I first interacted with this church. That's a story in itself. It is now 2017. I am still trying to weed this man's presence and control out of my life spiritually. What happened, which, unless you have experienced these people working spiritually around you, you have no idea what that means. Who controls somebody spiritually? What are you talking about? The best that I can describe it is, I've been on soccer teams and track teams my whole life. Even in college, I was on soccer and track, and one thing that would always happen is all the girls would get on the same menstrual cycle. And you become such a well-knit team that you have an extra ponytail holder on the day when somebody needed one, and you have an extra pair of shin guards on a day that you just cleaned, that on a day when somebody else doesn't have them. So you begin to supplement one another naturally. That's just how we are humanly, because that's kind of how we're built. We've got a hive nature kind of naturally in us. And so if you think about a cult being a team, and you can easily see how cult members can manipulate in groups and coordinate in groups to do detrimental things. And that amount of detrimental things can go anywhere. It matters on the leader, how much control he has, and also, most importantly, how much control he will be able to get over you. And so this man would have control over minds, and he would teach you how to hear him. And so literally you would begin to be his like provider for the things that he would need. And not necessarily like me as an individual, but his other pastors would talk about, I was coming to the building, and I happened to just bring my torque wrench, and the pastor said, do you have a torque wrench? And I said, well, I put a torque wrench in the back of my truck. Let me go get it right now. And so the Lord has mysterious ways to make sure that we help our apostle. And you're thinking, I want to be helpful like that. How can we accommodate one another? You want to be helpful, like on a soccer team. One of the goals of the soccer team is, the striker doesn't hold an entire team, because the striker can't be everything. You have to have a fullback. You need a sweeper. You need, halfbacks to move the ball efficiently so everybody's not like tired out of their mind. And the same thing happens when you're in any kind of activity, including a job. You can't be everybody and everything for everyone. This man very much wanted to be everybody's everything, and that included employment. And he was just really narcissistic in the ways that he wanted to provide guidance for everything around him, including people's future, and including the fact that he had no idea what the fuck he was doing. He had no idea of what your degree field would be, but he would never admit this. So he's like sitting here guiding people or holding people from things that are already kind of built into their lives. Growing up in the CME church, no one ever like curtailed my attempts to, first of all, go into the sciences, and second of all, to make progress. Like for the National Youth Leadership Forum on medicine, that was like, there are only like, 30 kids from around the nation that were chosen for that National Youth Leadership Forum. There might have been 30 to 45 kids from around the nation. Highly competitive, great opportunity. So the caliber of kids that I was around for that was high caliber kids, and it really kind of set me in a position of understanding, the depth of what it will take, first of all, to go to medical school. And also, the most wonderful thing is God will talk to you in the way that you need, okay, so that you can accomplish the goals that you have for your life. And so I also saw variety, and I saw like the spectrum of humanity wanting to be doctors. And so like I met people from literally around the world, from around the country, from such different backgrounds and such unique skills and such quirky parts about them. Like, for example, like one of the wonderful friends that I encountered was, we would be in the dorms for the program, like, so we learned like problem-based learning, and you would go to a campus and you learned a concept of what it will take in medical school for you to make it, so you understand the health field as an entity, or the health industry as an entity, and how much thought it takes to solve problems. And so we learned problem-based learning, and you get to understand how differently one another speaks and thinks, and what are the things that are important for you, what are the things that are important for a boy versus a girl when it's dealing with a woman's pregnancy issues and things like that. So those are the things like that really gave me a really big and great and wide and like healthy understanding of medicine in America and the competitive nature of medical school. So by the time it came to like applying for college, I was like, I have a lot of options. And, I don't have to go to Yale, or I don't have to go to, a specific school to go to medical school. I just need to get my GPA. I need to have a good, solid undergrad GPA. And, these things are the things that I need. The man that I encountered during these years while I was at this medical device company, and this leader at this church had no idea of that. And his way of doing things was pray, 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 and literally just harass, intimidate, and abuse people until they do what you want. His method, he had a son that had made it through medical school, and there were some very interesting stories that went with his process to get through medical school. So anyway, because of that, and he had a PhD in communication, I thought that I was in safe hands. But you don't know the nature of psychological disorder until you encounter it, and then you taste it, and then you're like, oh, that left a bad taste. So what do you do when you've been like, and what he really did is really derailed my scientific future, and kind of tried to take it from me, despite all the years that were built into it. And where they took you spiritually, they would take vulnerable people that were going through something and then try to take them on a whirlwind of, renew yourself in God, and God can renew you. And, he talked about being dead all the time, or, the man, Lazarus, and, I was Lazarus, and, I needed to take the grave clothes off, and I'm like, okay, I have grave clothes on. So I was like, I'm dead. What does that mean? I'm thinking I'm right in my prayer. I'm still on the path that I wanted to be. I was still looking at medical school. I was trying to decide if there are post-bac programs. I eventually decided that or becoming a nurse practitioner. And then, microbiology school, school for epidemiology. Did I want to go into pharmacology? What other factors in cardiovascular research did I want to take part in? And this is after my dad had died of a heart attack. So cardiovascular research was definitely on the ticket, but I just couldn't figure out exactly what portion of it, given all those years within the medical device field, the actual field of medical devices. I have 5 devices that I've helped bring to the market and are being implanted in humans. And, not all of them are perfect devices, but that's the nature of medical devices. Anyway, in my mind, I'm thinking, God, I've accomplished so much in you, and you've validated so much of my science and my background. You built this wonderful, scientific, interesting conglomeration of opportunities and chances where I could see whether or not I was interested, but I wasn't pressured. I would go to different universities, look at their programs, or I might meet with a professor, or whatever. I was just very I was just taking my time about deciding whether or not I wanted to continue into medical school. And the derailment of this Christian organization really has tried to just steal all of that. And so I guess I'd like this to be about recovering from it, because what I've had to do has been unbelievable, and it shows the level of sadistic control that these men get over people, and you become an object as opposed to being a human, and all they want for you to be is an animal that they can control. And because of the psychology of narcissism, they don't have the mental capacity to understand that they're doing this. And so you, as a victim, have to recognize that you're being abused. And there will be layers of that, and there have been layers of that where I'm just still astounded in it, what he still has a hold of over me, that I didn't know. And then I'm like, well, how in the hell do you get away from this? Like, what is this? And I'll explain what I mean by that. But that's what these videos are going to be about.